And now we are live. Hello, Jeffrey.
Hello.
Welcome. It's such an honor to have you here with us today. You are a pilot, you are a photographer, you are an artist, and we have a lot of questions for you for explain us a bit more insight about your work and about your journey so far. So my first question is, how are you?
I'm fine. Thank you. Thank you for inviting me to do this.
No, it's such an honor. You are really well known for your photography, and we really want to know more about it. So, simply, who are you and what is your background?
Well, I grew up in Los Angeles. My two interests growing up was art and planes, airplanes. So I always drew and painted, and I made models of airplanes. Was constantly looking up at the sky and trying to identify the different planes flying over. And whenever I could get to the airport, the local airport in Los Angeles, I would go to the end of the runway and watch the planes as they were landing and try to have them come to right over my head. So from a very early age, I was drawing and painting airplanes and just was sort of an airplane nut. And I started to take lessons in small planes when I was about 15. And I used to go out to the airport in Santa Monica, and they let me sweep out a big hangar. And then in return, I got an hour time in a Cessna 150. And so I got my license on my 17th birthday. You had to be 17, and I cut high school and went and took the test and passed. And so that was a pretty exciting time. And I started taking pictures from the air
Mhm.
with an 8 millimeter movie camera that I'd gotten when I graduated junior high school. So I started, you could say, and also taking pictures of some of the planes then. This is in 1960 when I began, so a long time ago.
Yeah. So you first start to take landscaping photography from above. That's
Mhm.
correct?
Yes.
And when did you proceed to this changement and taking picture from under, if I can say, from the lens?
Well, I after high school, I went to Berkeley and I studied architecture. And
Okay.
when I left LA, I couldn't really afford to fly anymore, so I didn't fly for 18 years. But I practiced architecture in New York and in San Francisco when I graduated, and I uh, I did some kind of unique designs. There's a small bolt together house that I designed as a do-it-yourself project, which if
Mhm.
anybody Googles bolt together house, it will pop up from 1972, um, an early design for the tiny houses that are popular now. And after I moved to New York, um, after working in San Francisco, and I worked for some firms in New York City, and and then I ended up designing a little boat together house, which I just mentioned, and the Family Circle magazine wanted to um, feature it as a project and sell plans for it. So they gave me the money to build one, and I came up to Woodstock in the Hudson Valley, and I built this little house, and they featured it, and I ended up moving to Woodstock because of that. And I practiced architecture for a while, but I also love graphic design. And I started a small company when the first Apple computer came out. It was a 64K Apple, which I bought in the early 70s. And I started a company with these die-cut note cards that were architectural in style, and that grew over the 80s and into the 90s to be a fairly good-sized company with 700 items and 20 employees. In 2000, I sold it because I wanted to just be creative, and running a company had become a business. So I started full-time photography in 2000. I set up a studio in Kingston, and I said,
Right.
well, what should I photograph? And I thought, well, what do I like? Airplanes. So
Perfect.
I went down to the airport in Los Angeles, and I just spent days and days with a little folding chair uh, by the runway. And then, of course, 9/11 happened, and then I stopped for a while because everybody was very skittish, and police were
Yes,
coming around. What are you doing? And
of course.
so I put it all on hold. But then after a few years, I picked it up again, and they kind of got to know me. It was like so they
You
didn't.
had
Yeah.
a full access.
So I began photographing the airplanes from underneath, and that is, became a typology of
Totally.
these pictures that were captured. Now the planes are moving quite fast, and you can't. People ask me, how do you do it? Are you lying on your back? Do you have a tripod? And you couldn't use a tripod because the speed wouldn't be fast enough,
Okay.
and you can't lie on your back because the planes are not always exactly right. And I'm running back and forth trying to get directly under it when it comes over, because they're always kind of doing a little bit of this and that because of wind. And so because of that, I actually it's kind of like I say, like shooting a duck, only I don't shoot ducks, but if I did, because I pan with the camera to keep the airplane in the view, and I have to
Okay.
capture it right at the top. I have to hit the shutter perfectly. And if I'm just a hair off one way or the other, or slightly out of the frame or whatever, it's not good. So usually, I'll get maybe 1 out of 25 shots is perfect, and all the others
Yes.
there may be something that's not quite exactly right or something. But so so if I come home from a day and I have, you know, 2 or 3 really good shots, that's good. And
Nice.
so that's kind of how it started. Um, this was back in the around uh, 2003, 4, 5, and I showed the work at a photo festival in Houston. It's called Photo Fest. I don't know. Do you know about it?
Yes,
Uh,
yes.
okay, so it's a great place. Anybody who's doing photography and have something they want to show and it's ready to show, you go there and you meet with um, curators and gallery owners and magazine publishers, and you present your work. And so I showed the airplanes to Manfred Zollner, who runs Germany's photo magazine. It's a very nice magazine, and we discussed the work, and he had some suggestions for it, and kind of actually helped me along the way. And 2 months later, it was on the cover of Photo Magazine, one of the airplanes.
Congratulations.
And
No,
then I also met a book agent, Bob Morton, at Photo Lucida, which is the other photo festival, and that one was in Portland. And he sold the work to Abrams and they produced this book, Aircraft, the Jet is Art, and that was in 2007. So that kind of put it on the map, and that's kind of how that whole portfolio came about.
yeah. No, it's true that this is totally your signature, and it's really fascinating to see the plane from under. Because my question was, so these pictures are taken inside the airports, or are you just like a bit far away? And I mean, there is so many questions, but is it safe, first of all? And where are mostly taking this picture? Is it in different airports, or do you have like a favorite one where, as you said, you can go with some access because now you are well known and recognized?
Yes. Well, my favorite is Los Angeles because it's a big international airport and they get all of the aircraft from Asia and also from Europe, British, German, and then in addition, all of the Asian aircraft. So it's a busy airport, and there were places there that were comfortable for me to hang out with expensive cameras because it's not always around airports a comfortable place to be. So so that's my main, but I have photographed, I mean, some of them at air shows, some in Newark. Um, uh, there's some at other smaller airports, Van Nuys, Santa Monica, but my favorite is LAX.
Yes. Okay.
And
Nice.
I'm not in the airport. They don't let you in very
Of
easily.
course.
Uh, you would have to pay money actually to do that. But and actually, it would be too close. They would be too low. And
Mm-mm.
so I'm about a quarter mile from the airport, which is sort of
Okay.
a nice spot to where they're maybe 150 feet over my head still, and
Okay.
so and yet they're still pretty lined up with the runway, so it's a good spot there.
So if we are looking for you, we know how kind of where you gonna be. Not so far from the Lex airport. It's a good way to find you. So I think that to make it more clear, I'm gonna show your work. So we're gonna of course focus on the collection that you launched on NFTs. We're gonna go back to it a bit later on. I'm just gonna share like this. It's more easy to visualize what we're talking about. So wow, I never know that it was like this, under an airplane. And
Mhm.
actually, it's a bit dirty. I didn't know.
Yes,
They are
yeah.
so
An
beautiful.
interesting story about that. Um, when you go back in time, like to say 2008, there was a recession, and airlines were struggling. The airplanes got dirtier. They didn't spend the money to clean them as much. I noticed you can tell when that happens
Yeah,
through how dirty the airplanes are.
I mean, you can tell. Yeah, totally. And so what I notice is mostly it's commercial flight, if I can say, but of course there is military aircraft.
Hmm.
For example, this one Navy. Wow, this one is beautiful. Wow. I think I saw one like this in Tampa. There is, the Museum of Aviation.
Hmm.
Uh, and I saw one like this. It was really impressive. No, it's really, really, it's really fascinating. And what is fascinating too is like if you just look one picture, it's beautiful. But if you see them as a multiplication, it looks like a kind of background. I don't know how to explain. They are all in the same size. They are all facing the same direction. I mean, the work that you've done, it looks like it's kind of a draw because it's impossible to imagine that this is a photography with all the movement, with all the different, parameters that you have to take care, as you explained. The plane is moving, and I'm sure that at this kind of altitude, the plane is maybe opening a tail or doing some modification. So
Hmm.
everything perfectly
Right.
similar. And it looks like a kind of, if we dezoom, it can look like a kind of a font of background with the same plane, but different shape and different colors.
Hmm.
So I have some question. How do you manage to have this background always kind of white, and and at what time do you take the picture? Because I'm
Hmm.
sure that if you take it around noon, you must have the sun. I mean, I'm sure there is a lot of parameter that you have to take care to have this kind of result, right?
Okay, well, that's a good question. Um, when I first started taking the pictures, I left the sort of sky in. It was sometimes blue, sometimes clouds. And then I noticed on a very bright, cloudy, bright day
Mm-hmm.
that it was just a very light gray background. And I thought, and this is actually something I spoke with Manfred Zollner when I was showing him the different works. And he said, I really like these the best. And I thought, well, okay, I should just create that background. I'll make it a light gray sky no matter what. So I masked the planes, and then I removed whatever was in the background, and I put them all in with the same percentage of very light gray. And so they become very much a typology where it's almost like pin butterflies or something on a board, and you just see them as graphic objects, almost like drawing.
Totally. And this is why it's like you are an artist, because of course you take the photography, you have these tools with your camera, but you have all this process to make it to make this series, to make it happen. And this is all the process of the post-production that you're doing. And this is why it's really incredible. And
yeah, there is a lot of post-production. The aircraft, of course, the bottom of the aircraft is in shade, and so it's often it's going to be dark. Your camera is going to open up for the light, so you have to go back in later and bring out the the colors and the lightness of the bottom of the aircraft. And that's kind of what makes them so nice also, is if you ever look up underneath one, it wouldn't look like this. Your eyes would squint because of the sky, and it would be dark underneath. And so this way you really kind of get to see something you wouldn't see normally.
And you know what is really nice in your work too is we can see your background as an aviator, and your background in the architecture, because this picture looks like a sculpture. It's you can really see what you're passionate about, and it's totally reflected in your work. So I think this is what each photographer tries to bring, his a vision, his passion, and we can totally see both of your passion mix, and it gives that. So it's really interesting. Yeah. So wow, now I'm really fascinating about it, because I never ever saw plane like this. Normally we saw the plane from above, or from landscape with building, or landing or takeoff, but like this, I never saw this before. And I think this is why you are so unique in this kind of work, and you totally find your identity on a way, if I can say. No, so now I would like to focus more on this beautiful Hello Kitty Boeing that Jenny Dao had here, and we are really proud and happy to have it. So let me just share it. Actually, I love this Hello Kitty Boeing.
Right.
So
EVA 777 with the Hello Kitty. That they've repainted that, so this is now historical, and that's actually true of a lot of the airplanes. The Boeing 747s have generally been retired as passenger jets for pretty much every airline now. They're only flying some of them as cargos. But also when they have these unique liveries like this one, they have to pay the license for it. And so they usually do it for a few years, and then they paint it over. And this one's already been painted over. So you have a historical plane that no one else will ever be able to photograph.
And we own it on the blockchain. Isn't it beautiful? No, it's really nice. And so this plane was, you took this picture in Lax, right?
Yes.
And do you know which company was it?
It's EVA.
EVA. Okay.
Yeah.
I don't know. Okay. So it's a perfect transition to ask you, how did you start NFTs? Because so this kind of work, you are doing it since more than 10 years. Is that correct?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. More than 10 years. Yeah.
And NFTs, so this launch was a few weeks ago.
Yes. Yeah.
So it's a beautiful achievement.
So I mean, I had been reading about NFTs, a little bit, um, but I didn't know much about it. And my gallerist, Paul Kopakin, who runs the Kopakin Gallery in Los Angeles, one of his artists is Alejandro Cartagena. And as you know, Alejandro is very into NFTs. And Alejandro was starting a group where he wanted to bring photographers that were serious, professionals to a group and make NFTs that were not just, anything. So he's curating a list of photographers, and he asked Paul to ask me if I would be interested. And I said yes. And the airplanes in a way are kind of perfect because they're very much an icon, and they're one of a kinds in more ways than one. As I said, a lot of them, though, they've been retired or the airlines have merged into other airlines, and so there'll never be another photograph like many of them, most of them in some ways. So they make good NFTs, which is sort of a one of a kind of a one of a kind. And so, that's how it started.
No, I mean, this collection is perfectly made and on the same page as NFTs, because when we know the process and the unicity that each of this picture is by the process of photography, the time of post-production, and the ephemerity, if I can say, the side ephemera of this picture, you took it and you have to, as you said to me earlier, you have to take 20 pictures to maybe have one good shot. Is that correct?
At least 20, yes. But I even if I have the plane already and it's flying over, I practice. It's like it's like you go out and practice shooting, and just to see, did I get a perfect shot? So when the right plane comes and I want it, I'll be able to get it, because it is kind of like almost an eye-hand sport in a way that you have to get it timed perfectly.
No, it's really fascinating. And what is the feedback about this so far? Did you enjoy to become part of the NFT sphere? Is it interesting for you? What do you think about it?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely an exciting thing to be a part of at the beginning, and so we look forward to doing more things, different kinds of things, and see where it all goes.
So far, let me go back to the main page. So far, you have a collection of 50 aircrafts owned by 13 person, which is really
15. Yeah. They're owned by 13 people, but 15 have sold.
Okay.
And I'm holding 2 for myself.
Of course, you have to. Nice. Okay, and so do you think you're gonna continue maybe to launch exclusive collection only for NFTs? Because as you said, Alejandro is an amazing federator for this space. You really want to empower all the kind of photographer and help a photographer to launch their collection, to find people who trust them, who believe in them. So do you think it's something that you're gonna keep on the side, or maybe you might be more involved for future collection or maybe collaboration?
I think I'm open to all of that. Yes.
No, it's great. And for uJenny DAO, we couldn't have a better picture, because as you know, uJenny DAO, the symbol is the plane and the aviation. So I think it's made so much sense that we acquire this beautiful Boeing. We're really proud.
Well, thank you. I'm proud that you purchased it.
Can I have maybe some, I don't know, next, what is your next step? What is your next project? If you can give some insights for the community.
Well, I have shot a series of cruise ships from the air, which was the second project after the aircraft. And you can find it on my website.
Yes.
Anybody who
Let me
wants
go
to
now.
see,
Mhm.
it's just jeffreymilstein.com. And also my Instagram is just also Jeffrey Milstein. So I make it easy. And so the cruise ships are very iconic also. They're shot exactly from the top and with very low lighting or else night lighting. And the ocean becomes very black. So it's almost the opposite of the aircraft with a white background. The cruise ships have a black background. And I think that's a possible future NFT. And then, of course, the aerials. I was fortunate to be given permission to fly over Paris in a helicopter, and Paris does not give out permission to just anyone to do it. They've only given, as far as I can count, four photographers that they've allowed to do that. And so I have a nice collection of over Paris photos, which are unique. And so I think that might eventually be a project.
So it's a lot of nice project. So I'm on your website. I'm trying to see. I saw the aircraft, but this is what we just see. Where can I see
the cruise ships? I'll click on portfolios.
Yes, I'm on it.
And then from portfolios, you should see, you might have to scroll down to see the cruise ships.
Let me share it. Yeah, I saw it, and it's totally the opposite. It's black and yeah.
Okay.
Earlier. It's wow. This one, for example, we don't know. Like at the first sight, we cannot really know what is it.
Mm-hmm.
It's like the inside of a phone, or I don't know, with all the is it on purpose? Because with all this color, it looks like it's the inside of a phone or a computer. We don't really know what is it.
Well, one of the things is very hard to see on a small screen, but when you see large or blow it up a bit, you can even see the people on the deck and you see everything. But from a distance, it's just very graphic, and you can see it's a ship, but not all the details. I mean, there's sort of these amazing things, like they've got running tracks and slides and pools and mini golf on the top. So you have this whole little mini world. And that one there is the Disney boat, and at night it was all lit up with those lights.
Yeah.
Kind of crazy.
Nice. Yeah, it's this one, right? With all the lights. Oh, the last one.
Yeah, that one's the Disney ship. And I didn't even know it was going to look that way, because we were out following it in the helicopter as it left port, and it was getting dark, and suddenly they turned these lights on, and it was like, oh my God, that's so cool.
Perfect. It's perfect because also with it's really nice. It's a nice contrast with the black.
Yeah.
And what is fascinating is for the plane, they have to be white.
Right.
So it's look really nice on this kind of gray background, because it highlights each difference of color and of design each plane have. And on a boat like this, you just highlight all the different colors that we don't even see or notice from this perspective.
Right.
So it's really fascinating. And also what I notice is either you take it from above or from under, we have this kind of same architectural perspective, with totally similar with your work, with your identity. So it's just really fascinating to see it from above, from under, on a plane, on a boat. I'm sure we can you can do even more. We can think about different things with your identity. It can be really fun.
Yes.
Okay, Jeffrey, thank you so much. It was really interesting to have all of these insights. And we cannot wait to see more upcoming, hopefully, collection with NFTs to acquire more. and see the next your next step and next move. So thank you so much for your time, really.
Well, thank you for the opportunity to share my work, and it's been a pleasure.
It's been a pleasure. Let's keep in touch, okay? And have a good end of day. Bye, Jeffrey.
Bye-bye.